Day Night by Parcels. So Spotify has the 3-disc version of it, so it's 23 songs, an hour and 36 minutes long. But it's not 23 songs long. It is, what would that be? It'd be 20 songs long because it's a 2.
Yeah.
It's a
19 songs long. Yeah.
19 songs long.
If you count the 2 discs, yeah. And the 3rd disc on Spotify is more or less the single versions.
Yeah. So say roughly an hour and 20 minutes. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The double albums, not my favorite thing because it can really feel long, and this thing felt long as shit. As Matthew Healy says, double albums are bad, and I'm going to stick you to that, Matt.
Yeah. Noted do as I say, not as I do. Double album offender Matty Healy said double albums are bad for fans. But I Parcels, again, very interesting. Parcels has sort of like the golden blessing from Daft Punk, so to speak. Daft Punk's final collaboration was with Parcels for their song Overnight, I want to say, from a couple years back. And I'm not 100% sure, I guess I can investigate this while we're recording, if Thomas Backinger or anyone else, like...
They produced
it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah, because that, sort of like neo soul, new spin on disco and funk and all these other different things is very, very apparent there. It's something you definitely saw in Overnight when you saw that direct, like Daft Punk touch, so to speak.
Yes.
And we talked about Daft Punk in our Daft Punk bonus episode. Check that out in the archives. But you can definitely get... Yeah. You definitely hear that in this album. And I think more or less for the better, because I think it's a long album, but you get a lot of pretty phenomenal tracks in here.
100%. It took a while for me to warm up to this because the first 3 tracks in here, the placement of them and the way that they're drawn out starts you off on the wrong foot to me. It starts off with Light, which is a really long opening track, but you get that like funk indie neo soul style throughout it. But it's largely just an instrumental piece, and to me, like, it's interesting to put that as your opening track for it. But I guess it's okay. But you could also make the elevator music a minute long instead of 6 minutes 13 seconds of elevator music for me to get into this damn album because I got more important things to do. But that's me as a music reviewer. Second song gets the Free. That kind of sets you up for the record. Again, it's a longer track, but I didn't feel too long with it. We do like the end of it, the way everything comes together, the drums, the bass, the strings in the background, everything. Track. Third one, Coming Back, is one that like for me felt very...
Sorry, what was that? You're sort of breaking up a bit. How did it feel?
Oh, I said I just felt really long and I couldn't get into Coming Back, even with the crescendo in the middle of the track. But the ending just took a long time to get to the worst thing. And the worst thing to me is where I got in. I really like this track. I think it's a really cool blend between, more of that funk, neo-pop along with indie, kind of wrap them all together into one track. I really like. And this is where I got into it. Love the bass, love the groovy bass, kind of a slow down, a chiller vibe through it. And this is what got me into it. But it took a couple songs.
Yeah, I think that could be a worthy critique, that like it, in a year, 2021 especially, where the best albums, the ones we've liked the most, are really good at just quickly getting to your point, like quickly getting to the good stuff that you want to sell in that record, so to speak. Not even like a purely economic sense, but like, hey, this is kind of what Sean's saying. This is an attention economy kind of game. The music industry has changed. What can you do in the shortest amount of time to get and hold people's attention with your best stuff? And that means not holding your best stuff till like deep into the album, so to speak. I say so to speak since this is like a double record, but I do think there is good stuff in here. And the worst thing, I would agree, is like one of those like places where you get the best of all of what they're trying to do in one song, and it kind of doesn't get it in its own way. That track's only like 3 minutes long.
Example, but yeah, because then after the rest thing you have In the City, which is the interlude, you have Now I Care Some More, kind of like filler tracks to me, and then you get Something Greater. And Something Greater is a fantastic track. really like it. And to me, this is where I wonder if Toma had some producer credit to it, because it sounds a lot like early 2010 style Daft Punk, with the way the funk is there. It's blending that funk, indie, Lana neo soul. It's just a fantastic track. I really like that. But I had to wait, 20, 25 some odd minutes or so, 30 minutes almost to that to get to there. I wish that could have been the third song maybe or something, because then it really sucks you into the album and makes you appreciate the other songs more in a way. Again, and that's like going back to our Adele review. Adele had her album laid out perfectly along, so that way every single track is appreciated. You don't want something less, you don't want something more. Those songs are long as hell too. They were 6.5 minutes for a lot of them, but everything is placed perfectly, so it doesn't feel like it's 6.5 minutes. You have that leeway to do as an artist and as a group, as a band, to figure out how to make a record sound, obviously as a concept that you like, but also to do make the point get across a little bit quicker, and not just necessarily that, but not to drown your sound too much. That way you're not missing a lot of these subtle things that you get in other tracks that you might want to, you're like experimenting with months and months in. You're like, I hope somebody gets this. You don't want to hope for it. You want to make sure they're going to understand that, oh, they're going to hear this part, because it's pretty clear in that. It doesn't obviously need to be over the nose trap snare or anything, but it could be that little thing where it connects to a track, it connects to something, or connects to a track two tracks down or something like that. But that's my critiques of it, especially the first disc for sure.
Yeah, I think the second, it's weird. I feel like the disc 2 is sort of where the sound gets a little bit more of its groove, although
Nice.
I think disc 1 has more groove. It's weird.
Well, we get this too. Shadow is a slower piece, kind of to get you into it. Never Loved, I think, is a really good, like, slow little funk track and stuff, almost like 70s style of the way it's really slowed down of it. But then you get Famous, which is like pure, love this track. Fantastic. It's fun. It gets you on your feet. When you listen to it, you just want to move. But it's also, it doesn't sound too retro in the way it sounds. It still sounds modern. It sounds new, fresh in that regard, but paying homage to different sounds and stuff. Decades, but still fresh enough to jam and.
Yeah, Famous is definitely decent. I also appreciated, like, Never Loved is a good song for the album. But yeah, it's just sort of like, I don't want to use the phrase like one dimensional, but like it just is sort of like flat in that way of, it is just that sort of like slow beat, so to speak. Famous, yeah, it has that more upbeat nature. And I don't want to like have my like sort of upbeat bias in tracks that sometimes I have with albums, but I think there's something to be said with Parcels. I think can work best when they own in on those sort of like really big upbeat kind of grooves, like Something Greater, like Famous. When they, I think like what you're saying, they try to get those working perfectly, like they do generally well, and then for the other stuff they're experimenting with in the tracks, like maybe be a little bit more thoughtful with how those motifs layer out in the record, as opposed to trying to stuff it all into one song multiple times over.
It was multiple times over. Exactly. I think it ends fine. It's still a little slow towards the end of it. And again, like just the way all the placement is of the record is, you can do it better and then have more concise points and stuff if you like. But I'm still not a fan of double albums because they are very long. Your good stuff gets drowned out a lot of the times. The only time I think double albums are okay if it's like a deluxe version of something, or a purpose-built one like Foals, where it's a part 1, part 2 album where they're released in different stages. That's okay with me as well. But a full double album like this, there's so much in here. You need to be a really big fan of the artist, the group, the band, whatever, to enjoy it. But as someone, as a casual listener and whatnot, you're gonna, all those motifs, all the stuff you worked very hard on making and producing, recording, all of that is going to go over the head of a lot of people. And I think more artists need to take aware to that, especially in the times we are in now of music where people tend to like shorter records. We like shorter records depending on it. Sometimes longer records are fine. Adele's longer record is fantastic.
If you justify your time and it feels thoughtful, then like a longer record, God bless. But yeah,
exactly. So, but anyways, our review is our review. Arbitrary scale, because that's what we're known for doing this week, is bad arena names, bad stadium names, because there are hilarious names for stadiums all over the country and world. This is shit. This is the Enron Stadium, baby. This is Fraud Stadium headquarters, my guy. This is beautiful.
I'm giving this the Tony Macaroni Arena.
Tony Macaroni Arena is fantastic, man. That's good. Good one.
Like the arena looks like a prison, but I mean, it says Tony Macaroni on it, so it adds a little bit of whimsy.